Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Wow, full house this time, huh? Well, welcome back to Auditorium number 1 here at the São Paulo Expo Convention Center. I am Guilherme Dias, your host, and this is day 3 of the largest independent gaming festival in Latin America, Big Festival 2022. So, let's get the cheese. Our next panel is part of the Big Business lineup brought to you by Apex Brazil. And in this very special session, gaming industry legend Shuhei Yoshida will cover various topics surrounding PlayStation's support for indies, including why PlayStation believes indie games are important for the industry, the history of PlayStation's support of game creators, and recent examples of activities under PlayStation Indies Initiative. Are you ready, guys? So, let's give a warm welcome to Head of Indies Initiative at Sony Entertainment Interactive, Mr. Shuhei Yoshida.
Hola. Obrigado. Yeah, thank you for coming. And sorry about starting late. We had some technical issues, but now it's solved. So my name is Shuhei Yoshida. I'm the head of Indies Initiative at PlayStation, and I'm going to talk about how we PlayStation loves indies and support indies. But before I jump into the subject, let me talk about myself a little bit, self-introduction. So I joined PlayStation in February of 1993. And I'm afraid that some of you may not have been born. And actually 1993 was before PlayStation was launched. So when I joined Ken Kutaragi's team, it was only the engineering team who was developing the original PlayStation. And when the company decided to bring PlayStation to the market, they started bringing people outside the engineering team. And I was super lucky to be the very first non-technical person to join the PlayStation team. And same year, November of '93, the company Sony Computer Entertainment was formed. And I was employee number 32. And I still remember the party we had, the entire party of the company in the hotel room, just like this. So we are like a small company, small venture within Sony. And we knew everyone, and we talked about everything with everyone. So if you ask me what was the most fun time for me to work in PlayStation, it was that period, the venture, the starting period, because we were small and we were new to the industry. We didn't know how the industry worked, but we had huge ambition, just like yourself. Many of you, the same thing. We are like indies, starting video game company within Sony. And when we worked on PlayStation, we met with lots of publishers, already video game company. Many big companies was very kind enough to tell us, Sony, Mr. Sony, it's not easy, don't try. Because there are so many other electronic companies of that time tried to enter the industry and left the industry. Yeah, exactly, it's not easy to be successful in the video game industry. It's super exciting, but super competitive. Just like some of you may be feeling making games. Anyway, so I was lucky enough to join Ken's team, and I started the video game production as a producer on PlayStation. And I worked on games like Crash Bandicoot, Ape Escape, Gran Turismo, and Legend of Dragoon. And I had the opportunity to move to the US in year 2000, and as a head of game development, first party, for the US region. And I had a chance to oversee the global production team, first party, in 2008. And so I was the president of Worldwide Studio until 2019, November, when I moved to this new role of Indies Initiative. So that's a long, actually short version of my career. So today's topics, as introduced, I'm going to talk about three things. The first thing, why we believe in indie games, why indies is so important for the industry, not just for PlayStation, but the whole industry. And a little bit about PlayStation's history with working with creators, game developers, and the final part is I'm going to talk about what we've been trying to elevate our effort to support indies for the last couple of years, the examples. So first, why indies are important? Because indies bring innovation to the industry. So games are getting bigger. And as you know, the AAA companies, including our own studios, are putting hundreds of people and over $100 million budget to create one game. Several hundred people, few years, it's a lot of money. And it's getting a lot riskier for this big company to make games. And when we spend so much money making in games, we tend to want to make sure that we can recoup that investment. That means that these big companies try to choose the genre or the market that are proven. We know they are big enough audience to support these big investment, or we rely on the sequels. These big companies have the successful franchises, and there are lots of fans waiting for the sequel. So it's a good business, and it's like an engine to bring money into the industry. However, video game, like any other entertainment medium, is entertainment. If we keep releasing the same kind of things, people get bored, right? So we are not just competing within the industry. We are competing with any other form of entertainment, watching movies, going on travel, or doing sports, or eating good food, right? Especially after COVID, people are really, dying to go on travel, right? That's why I spent 26 hours to come to Brazil. I'm having fun, eating good food here and meeting with people. That's and while I'm doing it, I'm not playing the games. I play game every day, at home. But I'm happy enough not to play games because I'm entertained to meet with you. Industry, video game industry, we always have to bring in something exciting, something people have never seen before. And look at these games. These are all, indies created. Just one person or a small team. And I understand Brendan was in Brazil, right? When he came up with the idea of how about putting, 100 people in one, shooter game and let only one person to win. That created the biggest genre in the current video game industry. So one person, same with Minecraft. So one person can change the world. That's the power of indie games. There are many indies in other medium, like movies or music, but their indies are indies, right? Very small impact. However, indies in the video game industry can have huge impact. It can totally change the industry. Look at these award events these years. Almost, more indies getting the best game of the year. Like last year's best game of the year, Inscription, right? Unpacking. And so because they bring something that AAA companies do not try, right? And small teams like yourself can come up with anyone could have come up with, game like Inscription or Unpacking. Inscription was made by just one guy living in Canada, right? He could have lived in Brazil, right? And get the best game of the year. So that's the power of indies. That's why industry needs teams like you to come up with something that people have never seen before. So that's why indie games are important for the industry. And of course, diversity and inclusion are the big words these days in the industry. And the big studios, have, different kinds of people, but because you are small, you can represent a certain point of view. Like TJ is making a game called Nuo, the Playing with Food. It's an interactive food, playing with food, like a guilty pleasure. And he's a, you can see African-American guy. And the co-op team is making game, High, Goodbye Volcano High. Is a story about non-binary dinosaur. And these group of high school dinosaur students making band, playing music, but they are faced with some, high school dinosaur issues. And of course, teams from Brazil can represent your culture, your background, right? Your music, fashion, food, right? Your legacy, mythology. And as many people in the world know about Japanese culture, thankfully, through, anime, manga, or games, or, people know about, American culture through Hollywood movies, video game, you can communicate to people in the world through your games, and you can represent your background, which in turn make your games very unique, something the other people in other countries cannot create. That may help your game to stand out in the global market. So how PlayStation has been supporting these efforts? So throughout the history, these are the hardwares we launched. We brought in technical innovation, like original PlayStation brought in two big things. One was real-time 3D graphics capability. At that time, the CG was used for commercials or something like pre-rendered video. So it was an amazing thing for some of the developers of that time to be able to make games with real-time 3D graphics. That allowed some adventurous small teams to come up with some amazing concept using 3D graphics. And another contribution that original PlayStation had was the use of CD-ROM media. Do you remember CD-ROM? So before PlayStation, like Nintendo NES generation was used cartridge, like a semiconductor. That took 2 or 3 months to manufacture your game, and the cost of goods was like $10, $20, very expensive. That meant the publisher of the time had to have lots of cash to publish a game. So that limited number of titles to be released, and it would have been even harder if you think you are a small developer trying to get your games being published by these publishers. So CD-ROM with very, very, very low cost of goods and a very quick manufacturing time. It was like 3 or 4 days from order taken to the delivery. Reduce the barrier of entry for publishers. So there are many new publishers came into the industry and helped new developers to create games and get their games published. And PSP and PS3, we adopted the online capability. So we allowed the digital delivery of games. And that was a big thing at the time because CD-ROM was great. It took 3 or 4 days compared to 2 or 3 months. However, digital distribution is like instantaneous, right? So that allowed even lower cost of goods, almost nothing, So we are able to start publishing smaller games and by smaller teams. And the VR, of course, I was personally involved in the development of PlayStation VR. We launched PSVR in 2016, but this is me in 2010. I was building Santa Monica Studio, and this was like a still PS3 time. And when I visited them, they put this handmade thing on my head. So we had PS Move as a PS3 controller that we released that was able to take the 3D position tracking. So they attached this PS Move to the headset viewer to watch movies and connected to PS3. And when I put that on, I was in the world of God of War. And I looked down and I was Kratos. It was such an amazing experience. And they made that custom thing, out of the work, like during the weekend or something, and they came back into the studio and made that, handmade thing. And other studios followed, and it became spread, across the different studios, and R&D group started making prototype hardware like that as well. So PSVR was not conceived by top management. It was like a grassroots effort by game creators in PlayStation and the hardware engineers. It was a collaboration effort. And the company noticed, wow, this is something we could do really well on PS4. And I had the fortune to be able to unveil the PSVR in 2014. So at PlayStation, when we launched, create a new hardware, we involved the game creators internally, so that there are many different, technical choices that we can make, but we make sure that our choices, hardware choices, are the right choices for game creators. So when the hardware is completed and delivered to you as a dev kit, it's already been tested by the internal game teams as well, so that the creators have the best use of the hardware. And these are just small examples of games we helped launch on PlayStation that was totally new, like Parappa the Rapper on original PlayStation. The game creator was Matsuura-san. He was a professional, popular musician in Japan, but he was really interested to use 3D graphics technology and use the CD quality music to create this interactive rhythm action game. But at that time, there's no term like rhythm action game. And he was wondering, can we call this a game? And of course, you can. So we always love to see new creators coming in and create new experiences, that have never existed before. And myself, so I was managing the first party for a long time. However, I loved, indie games, so I always visited these events, and I went to, an indie booth area, and when I saw a game that I liked, I took photos and tweeted, because I have, many followers, so trying to help promote these indie games. And, talking about VR, I was I was huge fan. I am huge fan of Pixel Rip series made by our boy. Anna is a creator. That's an amazing idea to let people to play games within the game using VR media. And so I've been friendly with Anna. Recently, we took photo in London this year when I was in London. So, PlayStation Indies. So these, what we've been doing, and I'm gonna show a little video. Hope the audio works. Oh, sorry.
PlayStation. PlayStation.
Yes, so we have many marketing activations that we deploy to help support, promote indie games. For example, we have big show we call, showcase, PlayStation Showcase, and State of Play, and with big AAA titles and first-party titles, we make sure to include some indie games as well. And in these big shows, we don't talk about indie games or AAA. We just say these are great games coming to PlayStation so that everyone, all the fans, hundreds of millions of fans of PlayStation can see, indie games as great games that they should check out. And for the indie game fans, we specifically gather the games coming out in the next few months and put together the series of announcements on one day. And we just did it 2 days ago. That the video I showed has 7 indie games coming out in a few months now. That's get lots of coverage, thankfully, by the way we are doing it. And on the PlayStation.com website, we have dedicated page for PlayStation Indies, and we showcase the games that are coming soon, and also the games already are available for people to purchase. And we constantly, update the site when the new games being announced, or etc. And on the PlayStation Store on the console, we have the collection called PlayStation Indies, and we curate and select the games that we believe are great quality, and we want to recommend to people so that, because there are so many indie games coming out almost every week, so we want people an easy way to find the best games when they have no idea what game to look at. And we update this collection every month. And another collection, the very popular one, is called Monthly Picks. And Monthly Picks pick the games that came out the previous month. And every month, the teams of us select 20 games to promote. And almost every month, majority of games, maybe like 15 out of 20 games are indies. So this is a great place to be if your game is included in this collection. And the PlayStation Indies sale is super popular. We now do it every quarter, and we feature like hundreds of games. And every time these games go on sale, if the user has wishlisted games on PlayStation, they get the notification, so they have, this is the time I should buy. And we launched new PlayStation Plus a few weeks ago, and we introduced 2 new tiers, Deluxe and Extra, for this market. And for Deluxe and Extra, we included hundreds of games for people to play, and many games that we are very happy to include high-quality indie games as well. And we will continue to refresh the collection here as well. And I talked about marketing activation, but behind the scenes, we are making efforts to try to improve the quality of life for developers on PlayStation. For example, we have a free hardware to loan program. And so if you are interested, you should talk to us. We should discuss. There's some technical challenges to overcome to deliver the kits to you, but we will work with you. And we have introduced new partner analytics tool. That means that once you release your game, there are lots of data we're going to provide you so that you can see what kind of marketing activity works well for you, etc. And we have launched new voucher code tool as well. In the history of PlayStation has been that we had a regional structure. So in the past, you had to do some things separately for each region, and the voucher code acquisition is the same. But now with the new tool, you have one place to request voucher code for all market. And we have a website and a help center support that you can ask any questions about making games or publishing games, etc. And we are increasing the staff to handle your questions so that we can reduce the time that we can come back to you with answers. And we have webinar series to talk about various things, common things for you to have questions. And we have separate training session and Q&A sessions as well. And we have just created a new team in the global third-party relation team called Partner Development Team, which leads me to talk about our Indies team. That's me, and next to me is Greg Rice. He's a global head of account management team who handles the indie publishers and indie developers. He's based in the US. And Greg used to be part of the indie developer himself, Double Fine. He worked with Tim Schafer, created many great games like Psychonauts. And he joined us about the same time as me. And he's such a great guy, tall guy, 200 centimeters. And he loves indies. He loves, supporting indie developers. He's such a great guy. If you have a chance to meet him, it's very easy to find him in the event because you can just look up. And John Eternal is a global head of this new partner development team. And we have John here. Stand up. Yeah. So John is also based in the U.S. and he's American, but he spent 4 years in Asia, in 2 years in China and two years in Japan, exploring, to help developers there. And he's now back in the U.S. and he's building a global team to support the new developers coming on to PlayStation and ask, any questions. And Luis just started in London to help the developers in European territories, and another person starting next month in Japan to help Japan Asia, and he's going to add another person in the US to work with John to support, America's region as well. And we cannot forget Mike Foster. Some of you may know. Mike also works for Greg in account management team. And he has a long history of dedication to support developers here in Latin American region. He really wanted to come with us to visit again. He's been to a big festival 4 times. And even before, he was here to meet with developers, and he even met his wife in one of these events. So he will continue to support, some of the existing, accounts, and he works with John's, new team to make sure that we have coverage to help you. So that's my talk. And if you are not on PlayStation registered developer yet, please come visit this site, PlayStation Partners. And it's free to register, and there will be lots of resources, information that you can get from site. And also you can write ticket to ask questions or talk to John or John's team if you have further questions. So that's my talk. Thank you.
Yoshida-san, thank you very much for awesome presentation. Guys, we are now going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes, so that's it.